Welcome to SheManifests Wealth Formula podcast. I'm Liene and a master of subconscious mind, entrepreneur, and a creator of best-rated course on manifestation, wealth formula. With experience coaching 15,000 plus people, I have crafted a 15-minute formula to solve any problem, aiming to transform health, wealth, and relationships. In this podcast, I strive to showcase real-life transformation stories that bridge the gap from where you are to where you want to be. Let's manifest our lives together because nothing is impossible when we are the conscious creators of our life. Thank you for tuning in today, and let's begin. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited. So, welcome to SheManifests podcast. And I'm so honored and happy because today is the 8th of March and I have a very, very special guest. Somebody, when I think of her, I always think this is a woman with a big letter. So, meet Dr. Betty. And Betty, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much, Liene. My name is Dr. Betty, and I live in California, the United States, and I also live partial time in Cartagena, Colombia, and that's where I was born and raised. But I've been in the United States pretty much since I was 12 years old, and I don't know how much you want me to tell, but I'll let you lead
What is
or.
your mission? How you are serving to the world? You know, you have been in all over the places. Everybody knows you. Everybody who meets with you, they say, this is my soul sister.
Hmm. Well, I'll tell you 60 seconds about my life because I think it's important for people to know a little bit about where I came from and so that you can appreciate what the things that I feel that I've been able to accomplish and why. So I wasn't supposed to live when I was born. The doctor told my mom to get the funeral arrangements made, and that's because my father was an alcoholic and he used to beat up my mom when I was in utero. So from the get-go, from the very beginning, I feel like I was a fighter and fought for my own life. And then a month later, they declared that yes, I was going to live. Fast forward, I was now 12 years old, and I had just told my mom, yes, I will go to the United States with you, along with my three brothers. And that's because he almost killed her right before my eyes, right in front of us. And so, in an airplane ride, we became poor. And my father was a very successful businessman. He had a transportation company, and in an airplane ride coming to the United States, it's like immigrants anywhere. We start with zero, and I'm sure everybody can identify with this, or many people can. And so my mom worked in a factory, and I babysat and cleaned houses. And fast forward, I promised myself that I was going to retire my mom. I educated myself, and with my first bonus, I called my mom at the factory and told her, today's your last day. You're never going to work again in your life. And that was really neat. And I feel like in my life, I've been able to accomplish things by giving things, by helping people get to where they need to get, and really offering help. I've been doing turnarounds in large organizations. The last turnaround was for JPMorgan Chase. We turned a $240 billion operation into $358 billion in 2.5 years. And then I've been able to speak all over the world. In China, in the United States, at the White House, I've been all over, and all over the world. I feel like I have a gift and to really elevate and empower people, and another gift in corporate and in entrepreneurship. And so I feel like we only have one life, and we get to do as much as we can to really make this world a better place for generations to come.
And this is something always whenever I see you,
I hear you. You are always so positive. I never seen, I remember we were having this conversation and I'm like, oh, today I'm not feeling, a little bit low. And you said to me, I never have these low days. I'm always in a good mood. So please give this formula. Why is that? How you can be in such a beautiful state no matter what. And you said this story to me. It was so inspiring. Sometimes I'm even sharing with the people.
I think it was my brother's death when I learned about gratitude. My brother, who had a glioblastoma, and for those of you who don't know, it's a cancer tumor in your brain, and it's a very fast growing cancer tumor. When he got this tumor, and we knew that he was going to die, I I started meditating and I started just really thinking, okay, how am I going to get through this? And I realized as his body became less and less able, like by the time it was like 3 months before he passed away, he couldn't even move. He was just laying there. And I remember I would go to the hospital and tell him dirty jokes. And then at first he would laugh, but by this time he wasn't laughing, and all he could do was just move a finger just a little bit whenever I would tell him. And his eyes were closed, and all he did was just move a finger. And I remember being so grateful that my brother could move that finger and he could actually communicate with me, and writing in my journal, what, how am I going to do this? How am I going to deal with this? His body's deteriorating and he's going to pass away. And then I remember writing, oh my gosh, I know exactly how I'm going to do that. Gratitude.
Mhm.
So gratitude was my lifeline during my brother's passing. And I think every day when I wake up, I have this routine. I wake up really early at 3 in the morning, or 2:50 or so. And the first thing out of my mouth is thank God. Thank you, God. Thank you for this life. Thank you for my husband next to me. Thank you for the air that I breathe. Thank you for being here. Thank you for my children. And I just say thank you. And I think when we live a life of gratitude, um, it helps us really understand, instead of living in a life of what I don't have, we live in a life of abundance, being grateful for what I do have. When negative things happen, instead of saying, why is this happening to me, I say, yay, something is happening for me and I get to grow into this and I get to get through it to the other side. So I'm going to be better because this is happening for me right now. So it's a matter of how you see the situation. It can be the same situation, but it's perspective.
Betty, I like that we are having this conversation because I'm also someone who believes that gratitude is everything, right? It is the blessing of life. It is something that is going to take you through the hardest times. Interestingly enough, right now, 2 hours ago, I was in the school that is helping disabled children, the
Mhm.
children, who are can't see, can't hear, can't walk, can't hold their heads. And they said, Liene, can you come and just speak with the mothers who are going through this? They have these small kids, and I'm sitting in this circle because I said, I will not prepare anything. Who am I to go and teach these people, how to live? Because all what I'm gonna do is sit in the circle and let's just see what is it gonna take. And Betty, this pain, I can't even explain you because even that one girl, she's sitting skeptically looking at me. She's saying, I'm not even believing in God. I did believe, but this is just not fair. They are all exhausted, they are all tired. And also I spoke about the gratitude. I said, there's always something to be grateful for. You open your eyes, you have water, you have the roof over your head. I think they got some hope, but when you live in this environment, and I would like to know your perspective because I felt that I got out of my state because it is just the pain that I felt, because I'm very sensitive. I can feel people's like emotions and pain. What is your perspective on this?
You know, Viktor Frankl wrote a book called Man's Search for Meaning. And if you think of the martyrs in this world and the people who have been in isolation and who have never um, had or who were in an impossible situation, the people in Joshua's, right? In the Jewish people that went through so much, the black people in the United States who went through so much, that we've had a lot of persecution that has happened in the world. But one of the things that I learned from Viktor Frankl, and I always advise people to read that. It's a tiny little book. It's easy to read.
Yeah.
Is hope. And I don't know if you can see the sculpture behind me. It's the hope sculpture that was built. I don't know. Can you see it? Are you able to see it? No. Let me show you this. This is the
Oh,
hope
now we
sculpture,
can see. Okay.
and it was built by Nikki Imber. Nikki Imber was a survivor of the Holocaust, and he built this sculpture. It's the original sculpture he built, and he actually built something like this in the Vatican and in the White House and in Israel, everywhere. And it was really to show people the hope, right? So Viktor Frankl, one of the things that I learned from his book was everybody needs hope, no matter where you are. And I remember my brother when he was dying, and he knew he was dying. I'm sure he was in pain. He just didn't show it. But I think his hope was to be able to make an impact. And I remember doing recordings like this with my brother in the hospital and saying, I would just take my phone and I would say, okay, we're going to talk to people on LinkedIn or on Facebook. And okay, what would you like to talk about today? And he would say, I want to talk about forgiveness. Okay, let's talk about forgiveness. So I just turn it on. Hey, everybody, I'm here with my brother and we're going to talk about forgiveness today. As you know, he has a glioblastoma. He has been given 3 months to live, and it's now been 8 months or it's now been 10 months. And we always talked about something that would give hope to people. And so every day when I visited him, we gave something. And I have to tell you, today, I have a group of people that get together every morning for 15 minutes every day. And we did this after the pandemic, and to pray for people that got COVID back then and we're still together. One of the ladies in the group came to the group because of the post that I did with my brother. We've never met. We have never met, and we've been together for over 1,400 days now. So we've gotten to know each other really well. But we learned because of this hope that my brother had, and that is what kept him going, is the hope of being able to reach people, talking about parenting, talking about forgiveness, talking about communication in couples, communication with your children. He had a really good relationship with his daughter, my niece. And so that's what I would say to people. Gratitude and hope are, there's something that happens in your brain when you're looking towards something, when you're looking forward to something. He ended up having a radio show where a woman, a very famous radio show person, brought the mechanics to my house when my brother was living with me, and he got to do his own show. But even before then, we got to do it right here. And so he's in the cloud and making a difference even after he's gone. So when you think about what legacy are you leaving behind, and you think about the hope that you're giving to others, and when we focus out, then things happen in our brain so that this incredible hope gives you the looking forward instead of looking back.
Yeah, so what you are saying, it doesn't matter at what point you are in your life, lowest, highest, because I know there's a law of polarity. It's always going to be high, high, low, low. It cannot be all the time high. And something that's been already, I was listening also on Naveen Jain, a billionaire, and he also said, he said, I'm always grateful. And in these moments when I have the lowest time, the only thing that is helping me is the gratitude. When I'm judging, when I'm suffering, when I'm living in pain, I'm not able to see, opportunities. But when you are grateful, even in the moment when you have the lowest time, that's when the magic happens. And the problem even gets solved, right? Most
Yeah,
of the
it
times.
does. I mean, I could tell you one of the lowest times in my life, together with my brother's death, was when I was going through a really bad divorce. And I don't know about in Latvia, but in the United States, the divorce rate is really, really high. And
Trust me, it's everywhere high.
okay, well, there you go. So I was going through a really bad divorce, and I remember thinking, how am I going to do this? My son was 2 years old. I was 24 years old, very young. And I was becoming a new mother, a single mom, and I had a part-time job and I was going to school taking 21 units. Normal units is 18, 16 to 18 units. I was taking 21 units and had two jobs and became a single mom. How am I going to do all this? And I remember thinking so badly that I had, there's so many feelings of regret and so much that goes through a woman's life and a woman's mind when you're going through a divorce in a situation like this. I decided I'm going to help people. And so I got trained as a crisis intervention counselor for domestic violence, sexual assault, suicide, and child abuse. And then I began manning a 24-hour um, uh, uh, hotline on this and started helping other people. I have to tell you that helping other people when I was in my lowest moment at that time in my life, look, focusing out and
Mhm.
helping others, it's amazing what happens because it gives you worth, it gives you value, it gives you a reason to live, and it gives you a totally different perspective. So helping others has also been, I believe, a magic formula for me to, when I'm really down, I look for people that I want to acknowledge and I send out thank you notes or a little text or whatever. The times in my life, like in New Year's when I was alone, I would send Happy New Year's messages and gratitude messages to people that have done something for me in my life. And then I realized, oh my gosh, look at all these people. So it's a matter of perspective. With clients, I have them write down, and maybe your audience can do this. Write down 25 things that you have accomplished, period, that you're proud of. When you're really down and you feel like, oh, I can't do anything, I'm not good enough, sit down and write down 25 things, write down 50 things that you have accomplished. And then take a look at that list and keep it with you. Take a picture of it and keep it in your phone. And then you realize it's a matter of perspective.
Or another task that I can give before you go sleep, you write down 10 things that you're grateful for because the subconscious
Yes,
mind is working 24/7. And
yes
we
it
have
is.
to have it when we go sleep. We are like, oh my gosh, this didn't work. I have so many things to do, this challenge, this problem. So you go sleep. And what is the information that your subconscious mind is processing? It is this, these problems. And you wake up, you are drained, you are tired, you're exhausted, you have low energy, and you start your day with the same state of mind. There are so many problems and I cannot solve this. So if you go sleep, before sleep, you write 10 things you are grateful for, you kind of shift the focus of your subconscious mind, and the subconscious will process this beneficial information that is actually going to help you. And the next day, and I know, Betty, I guess it's the hardest. It's like people say, it's easy for you to say, but that's the whole thing. That is the whole thing. Whether
You do
you
it
are
anyway.
able, you do it anyway.
You
Even
do it
you're like, oh, there's nothing. You can even be grateful for this, for the phone, right?
anyway.
For your food, for your water, for the roof over the head. I mean, this is beautiful.
And for the little things, I'll tell you if I can pull the string on what you said, because it's very powerful what you just said, Liana. Before you go to sleep, what happens in your brain is you have your neurons, and the neurons, the dendrites, it's the tip of the neurons, and they begin to connect. So whatever it is, if you read the book Habits, it'll walk you through how this happens. So one by one, they begin to connect, and whatever you focus on, that is what you are making your mind. You're literally transforming the way your mind is. And so these microfibers end up making like a whole microfiber blanket in your brain, and you are literally changing the way you think by doing that right before you go to sleep. So it's not just it's working throughout the night, but it's working to really change the neurological makeup of how you actually think. So the more you focus on the positive and the more you focus on gratitude, you're going to be changing the way you actually, your neurons operate, and you're going to move into the world of gratitude, which is fantastic. So it will no longer be difficult. It'll
Absolutely.
just be a way of life.
Okay, another thing about Betty. So we met with Betty in August 2023. We were the speakers for Doctor's Fab's event. And she was sitting next to me, and there was something that I was noticing about her. First of all, she's always so positive, right? She's so loving and smiling. And the way you build relationships with the people, it is something unexplainable. Everybody loves Betty, because with me it's like whether people love or they don't love. It's never the middle, just because I have so bright personality, and it's okay, I'm not here to please people, and I'm not searching for love. I love myself, and I have my like-minded people. But with you, Betty, everybody loves you. And there is a system. Even when I was seeing, just I think, what is the strength of Betty? First of all, she knows how to build a rapport with people. People want to collaborate because she's so powerful and so knowledgeable. And the third thing, she somehow is creating, you have a so big network, I believe, like, and you have some system how you use. I remember you take the picture, then you do this. And I was, I sit next to you, and I'm like, okay, what is she doing? And it's interesting for me, but I didn't want to be rude. So, Betty, explain, reveal this formula for everybody. Everybody wants
Okay,
to
so,
know.
so I will tell you how I got to the Vatican, to the White House, to the highest communist official in China, everywhere. So when I go to an event, first of all, if I go to an event, I show up 1 hour early. Showing up 1 hour early is when the speaker is getting their everything. There's nobody else in the room or in the conference, and so you get an opportunity to see them. This is how I got. I don't know if you know the book Trust, but Stephen Covey actually endorsed my book, and this is how I did it. He was keynoting and at an event, and I showed up an hour early, and he was there, and I said, "Hey, you talk about trust and I'm talking about values. Can we do something?" He looked at me like, "Who are you?" And Stephen Covey Jr. is known all over the world. He's like this incredible icon. And I just showed up with him, and I said, "Hey, yeah, if you could do this," I said, "why don't we stay connected?" And this is the next thing I do. I say, "Let's take a selfie." And so we take a selfie together. And then I say, "Let me send you this picture. And so what's your WhatsApp?" And so I send them the picture. In order to send them the picture, they have to give me their phone number. So now I have their phone number. And now I send them the picture. By sending them the picture, and I say, "This is Dr. Betty. And what is your name again?" "Okay, yeah, it's Stephen F. Covey." Okay, so now he has my name, he has my picture. And then now I have a way to get back to him. Now, when
And you
he's
remember,
speaking,
the face, because you sometimes like, oh, I'm gonna write your number, and you're just, who was this
I
person?
know who was this person. I had an Ambassador Ahmed Chala from Kosovo. I met him at the White House when I was unveiling my book and giving it to some people. And not it was an extension of the White House. And so he came out and I did the same thing. A year later, I get a phone call from him and I see the phone. Of course, his picture is showing, and I say, "Oh, hello, Ahmed." And he's like, "You remember me?" I said, "Well, how could I forget?" Well, how could I forget? The phone is right there. And so people, so you not only send them the picture, but you put the picture in the contact so that when they call you, you see it. And then you write something. I always write something in their contact, like their children, the age of their children, something that connected us, whatever it was that connected us, because I have so many people, I don't remember everybody. Just in case I don't remember just by their picture, I'll remember something we talked about. He eventually took my book all over Europe and gave it to heads of state and gave it to all kinds of people. And it would not have happened if I wouldn't have done the selfie. I can give you so many examples. So that's something. So in the conference that you and I were, there was a couple across the way that really caught my attention. They just look so lovely. And couples don't get to see themselves. They just are. They don't get to see themselves. And I just saw the love between the two of them. So I just snapped a picture when they were just kind of, in the conference and they looked so lovely. I took a picture and then later I said, "Hey, I think it was after I had already met them, so I had their number. And what you saw was me sending them the picture and saying, 'You look so lovely. I just love the love between the two of you.'" I was being human in a conference of business people. And I observed something and I let them know what I was seeing. And then all of a sudden, their eyes lit up, both of them, when they saw the picture across the way. And they wanted to sit with me. We ended up sitting together and we've just become really good friends as a result. And so when kids do that for one another.
Mm.
If you think about when we were children, we just walked up to somebody, "Hey, my name is Betty," and that's it. And you just struck a conversation. And what do you like to play? "Oh, I like to play with cards." "Oh, I do too. Which one is your favorite?" The same thing. I do the same thing. I just do it as an adult.
This is incredible, like really. So, how did you get in White House? There are not that
Um,
many women, right? Just like with all this skill, and Betty, it's not that important about the White House, but I just want to show people, if you know how to be a human with a kindness and love, and when you are able to acknowledge the people, you know, you're gonna be invited. People want to hang around with you. And they said even they wanted your speech to repeat, and you were explaining me. Explain, Betty.
Well, I think you're talking about, I spoke last year at the National Prayer Breakfast. And if you know, I think it was Woodrow Wilson that started this, a president many, many years ago, started bringing heads of state and leaders from all over the world to pray for world leaders. And so every year we have a National Prayer Breakfast here. And these are held all over the world now, but they started here. And so I was asked to speak, to say a few words, and to say the closing prayer at the National Prayer Breakfast. The way that I got asked, I was wondering because I was the only non-government official that actually got to
Mhm.
speak, and I thought, okay, how did this happen? And it happened as a result of different things that had happened before. When I wrote my book, there was a general that I wrote about, and it's General Mick Kicklighter. And when I went to interview him, I said, I would love to have you and your bride for lunch, for breakfast tomorrow. And it was a Friday night. And he says, "Well, we have a Bible study." And I said, "Well, can I come?"
Mhm.
And that's important. I said, "Can I come?" And most people wouldn't invite themselves like that, but I thought, oh, it's a Bible study. It's not a big deal. Here's his picture. That's General McKicklider.
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
so um, he looked at me and he says, "You can come." And I thought, what's the big deal? It's just a Bible study. Come to find out, this is the secret place where the presidents bring people and dignitaries come to visit. And I got to see when I walked in, the general wasn't there yet. And I walked in and I said, "Hey, I was invited by the General McKicklider." They said, "Oh, the general, come on in." And they gave me like the red carpet coming in because I was invited by the general. Well, the general was one of the people that started this organization at one time when he was asked by the president, at the time when he was in the army, to do some incredible things that he did. And so by going to these events with people, dignitaries, and different people from all over the world, they had observed me and they had seen how I was, and they figured we really want somebody that's humble, that's real, that can actually bring some humanity to the group of leaders. And if you think about it, there were 91 countries represented, 1,600 leaders, presidents, kings, queens, members of parliament, members of Congress, members of Senate, and parliament leaders. And so it's probably the most powerful group that I will ever address in my life. And I've been speaking all over the world, but this group was the most powerful group. And the way that I got there was just by being myself and showing up as just Betty. I don't show up with the title. I show up with a purpose to make an impact. I always end every conversation with, "How can I help?" Or I start the conversation with, "How can I help? I understand that you're looking for this. How can I help?" And I think the humility of being innocently curious, because when you're curious, you're humble. When you're curious, you're not judging people. When you're curious, you really focus on the person, not on yourself. You're focusing on the other person. I think people appreciate that. We live in a world where people are not heard, where people are
Absolutely.
not
It's all
appreciated.
about us. You speak and you already think what you're going to say to the person because, you're just those people who think, they're like, what others will think about me? Trust me, they're too busy with themselves. Nobody thinks about you. And if you are able to ask the questions, to be truly interested, and I have this habit, which I have also mastered. Whenever I see somebody, I always see good in them, and I want to compliment them. And I want to
Yes,
say something good about them. Not because I need something, nothing. It's just the way I see people. Of course,
yes,
not all of them, but if there is even the smallest thing that I can compliment, I will never keep it to myself. I will go and say, I like this one, and I'm like, you're this and this. It's very very important.
yes, I agree.
And Betty, another thing that I really would like to ask you to share about your experience in your last position. And please tell me how many people were under you?
10,000.
10,000 people.
Yes.
What was the company's turnover? It was, you said 200 billion,
Oh,
right?
it was 250 billion in assets, in deposits, and we turned it into 358 billion in 2.5 years in the
And
middle
what
of
was
the
your
pandemic.
position? In the middle of
I ran
pandemic.
it. Yeah,
You
I
were,
was managing director, so I was in charge of 1,000 branches, 10,000 people, and it's JPMorgan Chase. In the middle of the pandemic, it was a difficult situation because uh, our people had to be in the branches because we were essential workers, determined essential workers, and those are the people that actually have to go into work. And the community, the company was didn't have a like the best reputation out in the marketplace. People knew it as a very big bank, and but that's it. And so when you have a reputation of just being big, um, and not necessarily like the neighborhood bank in people, a place where people really want to do business, it was it was daunting because it was all of California, and California was the crown jewel, and it's so big. And also very diverse. Very different parts of California are like different countries, and so yeah, so that was the situation, and then the employees and getting people to really feel like their voice was heard, that they were valued, respected,
What was your
appreciated.
previous position before you got hired for the bank?
I had left banking for a while because I had written this book, and because it was endorsed by the Vatican, and then the forward was written by the Pentagon, or the general from the Pentagon. I was traveling all over the world, and then I had been tapped on the shoulder to be the U.S. Treasurer, so I was doing that kind of stuff. My previous position was a similar position in another company, in another bank, where I was also in charge of doing a turnaround, but it wasn't $250 billion. I mean,
Wasn't.
250 billion is daunting. It's huge.
Okay, and you get hired for this huge company with just a normal reputation. And Betty, what was happening in your head? So you look at this, what were the steps that you were taking, how you were thinking as this high level manager to change everything?
I did a cultural study before walking in, and I do this before I walk into any turnaround situation or any company. I do a cultural study, and I wanted to really understand what the culture is. And one of the things I do is I go in and I say I kick the tires and look under the hood, right? So I went in and talked to people from different parts of California inside of the branches, and I just shop them. What that means is I walk in and I say, hey, so how do you like working here, and who's your boss, and wow, does the president ever come in, and what are they like, and do you like them, and what do you like about them? And then I talk to the loan officers and I ask the same questions, and I talk to the branch managers and I ask the same questions, and it takes a while to do that. I look around and I see, okay, are there pictures on the tables of their families? Or is it completely clean? What is allowed? And then I look at the like, I just happen to have this here, like awards that they give. And I say, well, tell me about that award, and who got it, and what did you do, and how many people get it? And so I begin to understand what is the culture like? Are you appreciated? Do people listen? Do the head people come in, and do they become one with you? When they come in, do they only focus on the numbers, or do they focus on the people? Do you like the people that you work with? The Gallup organization did research a long time ago, and there were 12 questions that they asked. And one of the questions says, do you like the people that you work with? Do you have a best friend at work? So I ask all those questions. Do you have a best friend at work? Because having a best friend where you work increases the probability of you really liking the experience at wherever you work. Do you belong? Do you feel like you belong? So I look to see, oh my gosh, they're so proud. They have their awards in the back. They're proud to be awarded. Their family is valued, and it's so they have a picture of their family or not. If it's not, then if it's all numbers, what do they have and what do they focus on? So
So what was
I
your
do a whole.
conclusion? What was your conclusion after?
My conclusion was that they were focused on numbers and not on relationships with clients, and that the human factor was not really there. It didn't seem like people were collaborating with one another and working together and helping each other. It was almost like they were competing against each other. It was just a regular organization, nothing different than regular organizations, because if you're in an organization where you need to increase your number of customers and all of that, and the next person right next to you needs to do the same thing, they're going to start competing, right? And so that's what I saw. And so I also didn't see, I saw human beings talking and being nice. I just didn't see the why are you here, what are you doing here? And I didn't get that the people were, that they were heard, but they weren't really listened into. And those are two different things. You send out a questionnaire and then it goes into something, but you don't come back and tell them, this is what I heard from you and this is what I'm doing about it and thank you so much. And then you do a follow-up. Okay, have things changed now as a result of what we did? And
What did you change? How did you change?
Well, my very first phone call, and 10,000 people on the call introducing me as Dr. Betty Uribe, the new market director for California. And, Stevie Barron was my boss, one of the best people I've ever worked with. And he said, hey, Dr. Betty, why don't you tell them about you? And I said, my name is Betty. I was born in Bogota, Colombia. I came here when I was 12. My father was an alcoholic and he almost killed my mother. And that's the reason why I came to the United States. My goal and my higher purpose is to really make an impact in the world. And I do this by taking organizations and really bringing the human factor in them and then creating sustainable results. That's what I said. And there was, and I told them my values. My values are, at the time, was God, family, job, education, health, and community, in that order. Health ended up going higher when I almost died of COVID, but COVID wasn't there yet. Or actually it was, but it hadn't hit me yet. By telling people what my values were and being open about them, the first thing, there was a buzz all over, like, oh my gosh, she talked about her alcoholic father. Like in the Latino community, you don't air the dirty laundry. You keep all of that behind the scenes. You don't talk about the fact that you had an alcoholic father. You don't talk about the fact that he beat up your mom and that's the reason why you're here. You keep it to business, and they weren't used to that. It was very disarming to people. And so the conversation was, is she for real? And I get that a lot. People say, is she for real? Because people are not that open, and especially in corporations, and especially in very high positions. When you're at the C-level, it's very difficult for people to see you as a human being.
But Betty, look, I can understand you can change the culture in organization where there are 10 people, 20 people. Okay, let's say 100 people. But 10,000 people. How is this even possible?
It's just a matter of numbers. People are people, no matter what. And there's a book called The Tipping Point, and highly recommend this book. If you want to create a social epidemic on anything, it will teach you how to do that. And so I use the principles. So what I did was I looked for the people that were very well connected, and I did listening sessions with those people, and I let them know who I was and my expectations and so forth. So when one person hung up from the phone, they talked to 100 people. So one person was really worth 100 people for me. And they went and said, oh my gosh, she talked about her children. She talked about, this and this and that. And she was very personable. I would go to the branches that were in a hub and spoke approach. I would go to the hub branches so that then they can talk to everybody, because everybody wants to know, what is she like? Where did she come from? Is she real? Is she going to be hard on us? People want to know who the head boss is. And I know that people want to know. So I just show up as myself. I take the phone with me and I open up a page in my PDA, a blank page, and I say, okay, I'm going to ask you some questions, and don't mind me, I'm going to be taking some notes. So tell me about yourself. And people see me taking notes, and people see me having conversations. When I first walk in, I talk to the lowest paid person first. I don't go to the manager. I talk to the lowest paid person first, and I sit with them. And if it's the guard that opens the door, I talk to the guard that opens the door. So tell me, so what are the kind of people that come in, and what do you love most about your job? So I say, what's working? I ask 3 questions. What's working? What's not working? If you had a magic wand, what would you do differently? And would you mind if I take notes? So I'm taking notes, and then what do you do for fun on weekends? And I take notes, and I put a
What's
page
working,
on.
what's not working? If you would have a magic wand, what would you have? And what are you doing on the weekends? Guys,
Yes, for
write down
fun.
this. Betty, like I could stay for the whole night with you here. And then what do you do?
And and so when I leave a place after spending this quality time one on one without being interrupted, and people would come, oh, it's time to go. No, I'm not done yet. I'm sitting here with this individual, and they're like, oh my gosh. Then after that, we were having a statewide call with all 10,000 employees, and one of the people went like this. And I went like, oh, look at that. I went like this, and they took my picture. I know. And they took my picture like this, and then they blasted it all over like Dr. Betty, the heart doctor, or whatever, right? I mean, I have a little heart here. And
Wow.
so everybody was like, oh my gosh, she leads from the heart. And then all of a sudden it just became like wildfire. She leads from the heart, she leads from the heart, she leads from the heart. And then I had the acknowledgement, for example, Thursday, thank you Thursdays. They already had the thank you Thursdays, and the assistants would write down the memo and would send it out. Well, I said, I want to write the thank you Thursdays. Let me write it. And so, hey, I really want to thank you for this and that. And then, maybe the assistants would write something, but I would take it and then I would make it my own, and then I would put my own thing. And then I put as a mantra a place where people are valued, respected, appreciated, and heard. And so you start listening to this, it's almost like a mantra. This is a place where people are valued, respected, appreciated, and heard. And when I saw that they weren't valued, when I saw that they weren't respected, I would stop a meeting and I would say, I we want to build a place where people are valued, respected, appreciated, and heard. And so all of a sudden the communication started changing, and we had a tagline at the bottom of every single communication, because a language is important. When you go from one place to the other, you notice the difference by the language that is spoken. And so when we write down at the bottom of every PowerPoint, valued, respected, or building trust, my mantra is building trust and value in relationships for generations. And so it's always in my
How long
signature
time did
line.
it take to change it? How long time did it take?
6 months.
Six
In
months.
9 months, I got this award. In 9 months after I started. And this is the biggest honor that you can get, is the Champion of Chase Award. And it's when you make such a difference in a culture. One of my employees had gotten the award before I did, and she had been with the company for 30 years. And I have the text messages from my team saying, Dr. Betty broke a record. We've
Oh
never
my
seen
God.
anybody get this award
Oh
so
my
fast.
God.
It was very fast when it happens. When you're real and you show up real and you genuinely care. Franklin Roosevelt said once, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Oh my
So you
God.
can show
Oh.
up
Mm-hmm.
you can show up and you can not know, and it's okay not to know. A lot of leaders show up and they feel like they have to know everything. Well, they don't. They can just, in something that you do so beautifully, Leanna, is you know that people have the answer within them, and you get it out of them. And so when people know that you genuinely care, and you genuinely care by your actions, then all of a sudden their heart is in it. Once your heart is in it, Once you build a personal relationship with people, then all of a sudden they see you differently. They see you as a human. Once you tell them your imperfections, they can connect with you because you're not this person up in a pedestal in this Eiffel Tower. You get to their level, but not by coming down to them, but really coming together as one, as equals. You don't allow the title to differentiate you.
Absolutely. I always also say this is how I see. I never want to see a title in my company. And I have said, I'm sorry, but if you are here for money, this is not the right place.
It's not,
And
I
it
say that
doesn't
too.
matter. And you know, and there were some people who left after this. When
Yeah.
I said, I would rather stay and without you or with that person, without that person. But, you know, I just want that the culture is like that, where people have the part of mission where they are not doing. It's not that everybody, the money is important, but we know that the difference when you do the energy that you bring in the company is absolutely different. But if you have the company and there are people who are, let's say, not willing to take responsibility, or they are not keeping their promises, what they have promised. Because Betty, I was managing like 400 people. For Latvia, it's a lot, right? When I had the restaurant
Yeah.
business and everything. And still, let's not forget there's a human factor.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I believe even because I've been always caring about people, Betty, and it's been even to the point where I would give money because they would say I cannot pay my bills, and they just come and they say, "Prove me you gave me money." Like, where is the
Wow.
proof? You know, and it's sad, but of course, it didn't make me to become someone who will never help people, but I would just, it was my lesson where I said,
Yeah.
I need to be careful. You know, I cannot
Yes.
just give. So that if I give the money, then you need to write the paper, you know? Yeah, but
Yeah.
still, so, and I think everything is not as easy sometimes in the company. What do you think if there is like they're not keeping the promises sometimes, not always, but sometimes they don't want to take too much on themselves? Did you have some consequences? Did you have some KPIs connected to their performance? How you can motivate people not only deliver because of the hours and because of the money, but also where they are taking responsibility for what they do. They really go through
Yeah.
this and they're careful because that's important. You know, you can lose so much money just because of small mistake.
Yeah. There's a book called Putting the 1 Minute Manager to Work. Ken Blanchard wrote this book. And, it's funny because you did run restaurants at a big level. And one of my clients runs restaurants, and he had this issue a month ago. And he no longer has that issue. We just had a call last night, and he said, "You would not believe that this individual that I've been working on, he took responsibility all on his own, and he came back and told me these are the numbers, and I didn't have to bother him for it or anything. Oh my gosh, after only a month, this is happening." I'll tell you what I did, and I'll tell you what I normally do. If we, I always say they have to want it more than you. When you as the leader are working so hard, you've got the wrong person or you're leading in the wrong way. A lot of times we as leaders tend to think that we have to follow up with them, we have to do it for them, and we have to send them the reminder, hey, don't forget we have a one-on-one at 5:05 or whatever. I don't do that. I have them prepare all the numbers. I have them prepare, and I have them come to me at exactly whatever time it is. I never do appointments with my employees at exactly top of the hour, bottom of the hour. I do it at 31 minutes after, 32 minutes after. Why? Because atomic time, it gets them to realize, wait a minute, she wants a 32. The first question that people are going to say, why 32 minutes and not 1:30 or 2:30. No, it's 2:32, 2:36. And I do it at odd numbers. The other thing I do is I have them bring me what their production is or whatever it is that they want to talk about. The first thing I talk about is them. How are you doing? How is the family? Before I even get into the meetings. How is your goals? Because I ask them about their goals at the very beginning. Why are you here? I find out the why before. They're here because they really love what they do. There is an exercise that I do, building trust in a very short period of time. We just did this with this group. And all of a sudden, people became human because they told the story of each other. The exercise is you put a collage together, and you're not allowed to put any words or letters, only pictures in the collage, and you answer 3 questions. Who are you? What is most important to you? And what time in your life or what person in your life created what is called a crucible that created a paradigm shift in your life that made you who you are today. And so I get everybody together, all of my leaders together, and everybody shows their collage to other people. So mine has pictures of an airplane because my airplane ride was one of my crucibles. It has a picture of my brother because my brother dying was one of my crucibles. It has a picture of all my children and my husband because they're the most important to me. It has a picture of me in church with my brother because God is a big deal for me. It has all my values, and then it answers the questions. And so I talk about my alcoholic father. I talk about all of this. I ask them to do the same. All of a sudden, every single time there are tears, people cry. There are, even at JPMorgan, when we did this exercise, it was the first thing that I did in my very first meeting. When they did that, some people said to other people, hey, I've been working with you for 30 years and I never knew this about you. I did a huge conference and an offsite meeting for the World Bank, and these were the PhDs from all over the world who were in charge of whether a country project was funded, whether they were putting money into this country fund to help wipe out hunger. And these PhDs, they were the ones that I had to build bridges and, break down the walls between them. That's why I led this offsite meeting. And it was a strategic offsite meeting. When I got them to know one another, one person said, I'm sorry, but we're not here to get to know one another. We're here to get the job done. And then somebody else said, well, aren't we going to get the job done better if we do get to know one another? So I took them through this exercise, a very similar exercise as this one. And by the end, they were hugging. These are PhDs. They were hugging, they were crying, they were telling each other things. And so all of a sudden, what happens is when we build that human connection, remember, we are hardwired for connection. If I'm able to create that kind of connection, and then I'm able to, as their leader, understand their why, then I can talk to them in my one-on-ones. How's your mother? Is she out of the hospital yet? She remembers. Yeah, she remembers. She wrote it down when she talked to you. And I prepare before my one-on-one with them.
Let's, in 3 short ways, how you can raise the performance of the employees. Like 3 things, what would you do?
You increase the accountability by having them have themselves accountable and not me holding them accountable. You get them to track it, and you get them to bring it to you, and then you give them a whole lot of kudos when they're moving in the right direction, much like Pavlov. If you remember Pavlov, operant conditioning, Pavlov would give them the little piece of food when they moved in the right direction. We do the same thing. When we're children, we get a little star. So what I do is I pick the people that are doing the right thing. In 10,000 people in my conference call with my senior executives, I would say, I just came out of the branch that belongs to Liana. And in that branch, such and such, Johnny was doing this, and let me tell you what he did. And congratulations, I heard that you're doing this in your area. This is fantastic. I don't say the rest of you are not doing it. I just say you're doing it, and this is fantastic. Congratulations. I can't wait to go to everybody's place. All of a sudden, everybody can't wait. So I lead with the carrot. I don't lead with the stick. And then I get them to hold themselves accountable. And then I track everything. I track trends. I don't just track the day, because if you just track 1 month, anybody can do a really good job in performance in 1 month, but can you do in 12 months? So I do a rolling 12-month tracking, and I have them come and tell me about the numbers. They do their own numbers, they do their own tracking, and then they come and talk to me. When I have a brand new leader, I meet with them for 10 minutes every day for 90 days. 10 minutes, atomic time. And it's usually early in the morning. And the questions I ask them is, what did you do yesterday? What did you accomplish? And what are you up to today? And that's where I hone them. That's where I coach them. That's where I let them know where they need to be. I have a client that I'm doing exactly that with. He wanted to become a better leader, so I'm meeting with him 10 minutes every day.
Absolutely. That's amazing.
And he's the one that brings to me. I'm not the one. He's the one that's working. They have to want it more than you.
Absolutely. Betty, the last question that I'm always asking everybody. What is your wealth formula?
Don't focus on the dollars, focus on the people. And when you focus on giving people what they need, the money comes. And the money comes abundantly. I can tell you that as an immigrant who had nothing, who cleaned houses at the age of 12, I had $1 million cash in the bank and 9 properties plus a 111-acre ranch in Texas, 9 properties in Orange County, California, one of the most expensive places in the world. And I did all of that by really understanding my own finances, saving a lot and asking a lot of questions of people that really knew how to do this, and really focusing on people. By focusing on people, people will trust you with their hard-earned money, and they will trust you with just about everything if you show them that you really are on their side. You really are there for them. You're not there for the money. That's the best wealth formula for me. It's worked for me. It has me. Today, I'm not 80 years old, but I did an 80th birthday toast 13 years ago. And today, I'm living the life that I thought I would be living at the age of 80, and I'm far from being 80, so I'm having to redo my goals because I reached my goals so much sooner. But I always focus on people. I start with the people, I finish on people.
Yeah, and always when I speak with you, it feels like it's all about us and all this, just very, very, very deep connection. Betty, where people can find you, if they want to find you, get to know you, please also show your book, your beautiful book on values.
Okay, so this is my book. If you want a copy of my book and you don't want to pay for it, go to my website, drbettyuribe.com, and then order the book. And at the end, just put #values 100%. So you will get 100% off on my book. You will get it only because you belong to Liana's tribe. So you're going to get it for free. All you pay is just the shipping and handling. It goes for $24.99, $24.99. So that's how you get the book. How you get a hold of me, the best way to get a hold of me is through LinkedIn. And it's just Dr. Betty Uribe at LinkedIn. So that is the best way. And if you want to get a hold of me, put in there Liana. Then you will go up to the top of all of the messages because I get a lot of messages. So if you just put that in there.
And also on Instagram, you are sharing your daily
Yes.
places, the conferences that I'm watching where you are there because
Yes,
I just want to feel closer to you. And
yes.
Betty, thank you so much. I love you. You're so dear to me. And I'm very grateful that you spend this time with us. And another thing that I really want to acknowledge here, people want to be successful, people want to have money, and people want to have all of these beautiful things. But one thing that people need to understand, you need to do things differently than everybody else. And Betty is always awake around 5, 4 o'clock. I cannot do this because I have small kids, but still I'm there 6 o'clock. I'm meditating, I'm running, I'm writing my journal. I'm still there for myself. And this is what is required. You have to be different. You have to do different things, this discipline, what nobody else is doing. And that's why there is such a beautiful human being. And that's why I respect you so much. It's not only about the money, it's not only about the success, but it's about the humanity. It's about, the people where we want to bring the beauty in this world. And you are
Yes.
a true light, Betty. Thank you for
Thank
that.
you. Thank you. Well, I'll leave you with one thing though. I may be a true light, but I'm very careful who I surround myself with. And I surround myself with people like you who are like minded, who really genuinely, and we've had very deep conversations about what you do for people around you. And every single time, one of the things that impressed me the most, and I'm coming all the way to Latvia. I just don't do this for just anybody. I mean, I'm going across the entire world for you so that I can be there for you, so that I can be there for your people. And I'm so excited about it. And I'm excited about our friendship. I'm excited about having you in my tribe because I'm very careful who I surround myself with. Very careful that we are completely aligned. So, yes, do something differently, but surround yourself with people that you want to have as your best friends, that you want to have at your funeral, that you want to have at your bar mitzvah, your birthday, whatever. People that are completely aligned. When you align yourself with people that are aligned with your core values, things are easy. Our conversations have been effortless.
Yes.
Our
Oh,
meetings, we just,
so
hey, I'm
beautiful.
here. Oh, I'm here too. And what are you doing? I miss you. I miss you too. And when are we going to meet? Oh, don't worry about it. We'll just meet here. And it's effortless. It's effortless because I know your heart. I know that you really mean the very best for every single person you touch. And you're going to have people that don't believe. I had people that didn't believe at JP Morgan. And at the end, they said, oh my gosh, she really was for real. She really was for real. There are people like this in this world. Well, yes, you're seeing it, two of them right here.
Exactly. And another thing from me, people are talking, but I'm always saying the results speak louder than everything
Yes,
else. We
yes,
have the
yes,
promises, I will do this and that, and I don't need to talk what I'm gonna do. I rather spend my focus on really doing it, and at the end,
yes.
see, I got there. And this
Yeah,
is all
and
results
we did
speak
it.
louder. We did it.
Yep,
We are on it. We
yep.
did it. We
Absolutely. Yes, yes.
Okay, thank you.